Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Wherever you are watching from in the world, welcome. We are the Poetry News with Eddie, Squigs, and myself, Martin. We have various things coming up for you on the show today, including an important debate, an excellent workshop. But first, I have two words for you. Wergle, Flomp. What am I talking about? I'm talking, of course, about the Wergle Flomp Humour Poetry Contest, which is entering its 22nd year. Each year, it seeks out the best in comedy poetry from around the world. They have recently announced their 2021 winners, with the top prize going to a poem called My Therapist Says by Koss. The second prize going to COVID-19 by Marcus Bales. Now, this is an important prize because I think comedy poetry is quite important, especially in these serious times. Isn't it nice when you suddenly can just belly laugh at an open mic or something that you read online? And also, this prize pays $2,000 for the winning entry, which is also, whilst perhaps not being particularly funny, is quite good for lining the pocket in these tough times. If you fancy entering the 2022 competition, then entry is free and open until the 1st of April 2022. Entries can be in English or gibberish, and they can be previously published or unpublished poems. Anybody from anywhere in the world can submit. You get prizes for first, second, and third, as well as for 10 honourable mentions, as well as publication and a load of other exciting things besides. I will certainly be entering this next year. But I'm interested to see what you think, Squigs and Eddie. Are you fans of writing comedy poetry? Is this something you fancy entering?
Well, comedy poetry is not something I'm usually interested in writing. However, I enjoy listening, like when the poem takes you by surprise that, it's because usually when we expect poems, we think of more serious poems. However, when something takes you by surprise and you're laughing with the poet, that's really interesting. And I would like to read some of the poems that have been published. What about Squigs? What do you think?
I think I'm always trying to be funny, but I don't always succeed. I think it's great, a competition that encourages levity, especially in our art form, which is just wrought with tragedy. You know what I'm saying? But this is great. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Well, that's it. I mean, it's true that the poetry, certainly a lot of the nights I've been to recently, the poetry has been quite serious. I think reflecting the really quite serious and difficult times we are actually going through. And honestly, I was reading through all of the winners and honourable mentions are available on their website to read. Also, they've got audio recordings on the website by the actual poets themselves, so you can really get into how they're actually speaking it. And I know, certainly for me, when I first started writing, comedy poetry was what I started writing first, I think because I wasn't confident enough to express myself. But then you can also it's levity for yourself as well as levity for anyone who might be interested in any silliness that you've got to say. So yeah, there's plenty of time, and please do enter it if you fancy it. So there we are. If you want more about that, then head to winningwriters.com/our contests for full information. All of the links to everything we do today will be in the description below. And we will be back right after this.
So thank you, Martin, and welcome back, everyone. I am Eddie, and I'm joining you from Pantoum, the north of Lebanon, and I will be presenting you with a really interesting workshop. It's actually a 4-session workshop that goes over the month of September. It starts on September 3 and ends on September 24. There will be 4 sessions, each with 2 hours, in which you will be talking about or trying to write about traditional poetry forms. Each session will focus on one of these 4 forms. There's the haiku, the sonnet, the ghazal, and the pantoum. In this workshop, you will focus on the many facets of these four forms, and you will be talking about your personal relationships with sound, rhythm, refining your relationships with the form and content. You will learn about the rules and also when you can break them and how is the best way to break them. And you will foster a new understanding and appreciation of these unique poetic approaches. The workshops will include weekly 120-minute live writing workshop with Q&A, multiple writing activities each session, professional critique of a new poem each week, bonus exercise provided between sessions, and many more amenities. Basically, all of these workshops will aim for you to have these conventions and have these ideas of writing these many forms of poems. Let's talk to Squigs and Martin and see, would you guys be interested in attending this workshop?
I absolutely would be. I think for me personally, I know some people see form as a little bit old-fashioned, but personally, I find it really, really useful. I struggle to write in form, and when I'm essentially forced to by a workshop or a writing challenge or something like that, it really forces me to really think about what I'm trying to say, and I think that's something that form does really well. And by going down that route and really learning in detail and practicing how to write, how to structure your writing into those forms, when you're, say for me, like I said, I don't generally tend to write in form, but when I then go to write in a more formless way, I'm still thinking about those lessons that I've learned and that feedback that I've got about how to really get to what I'm trying to say. You know, no matter how much you think you've edited the poem, there's often some stuff in there that you can take out. You know, a real solid, perfect poem has absolutely nothing sort of extraneous in it generally, and writing in form really helps you to get into that mindset and really helps with writing concisely like that. More concisely than I explained that point. But what do you think, Squigs?
I agree with you. Usually when I write, it's in more of a free form, but yes, the mastery of structure in like you said, haiku, sonnets, and pantoums is really a great way to flesh out your poem. Like when you apply a count of syllables, stanzas, it's like, what do I really need, like to get the fat out of the poem. I totally would be interested. And Eddie, when was this happening again? This is in September, correct?
Yes, this will be in September, on September 3, on September 3, 10, 17, and 24 at 9 a.m. GMT. You can do the calculations that fits your time zone. And it will be hosted by John Sibley Williams. It is a really interesting workshop. And to go back to what you guys said, I read this thing one time, and it was that form is not a lock, it's a key. Because a lot of people think that form traps them or locks them or prevents them from expressing themselves. And it is not. It is something that allows them to express more. All right, we will move on to Squigs part, but first let's stop for a commercial break.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Squigs reporting from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, acknowledging Treaty 1 territory. Thank you very much to my heralds, my co-heralds, Martin and Eddie. Today, we are, of course, going through the pandemic and considerate of everybody's spaces and all vying for herd immunity as the forefront of our thoughts here. But what about, in our thoughts, herd mentality? This segment, I would like to talk about cancel culture. Wikipedia defines cancel culture or call-out culture is a modern form of ostracism in which someone is thrust out of social or professional circles, whether it be online, on social media, or in person. The expression cancel culture has mostly negative connotations and is commonly used in debates on free speech and censorship. And to begin, this conversation. Actually, I want to read a piece from a poet online here who I discovered on the website allpoetry.com. Poet goes by the name of Dreamspring52. The poem is titled "The Cancel Culture." Pointing fingers. Let's begin with the public execution. One video goes viral and the judges join the session. Previous bystanders, contributors joining the bandwagon. The blame is shifted on one, all to stay under the radar. And the public eat it up, accumulating the accusations. The media becomes the jury, judge, and executioner, closing the coffin on the perpetrator under the illusion that justice was served. Heaven's conviction, the witch hunt is undertaken. In an indirect confrontation, the assembly decide the punishment, decapitation, no matter the crime. There is no place for education, but it is a constant cycle of condemnations. So, yeah, wow, very powerful piece. And once again, that is on All Poetry, written by Dreamspring52. And I would like to welcome back my heralds to speak on your opinions currently on this cancel culture, which is so prevalent that people are now writing poetry about it. How about that? So what do you guys think?
Gosh, I hate cancel culture. I cannot imagine how did we get here as a society, as a world? How did we get here? Because like the poem says, it is like an execution. There's no place for education or for anything to be fixed. I understand that we're all human. We make mistakes. It is something that happens. But the issue is that we don't allow people who make mistakes to be better, to fix their mistakes, to try to understand what did they do wrong, what was it the wrong that they did, and then we immediately cancel those people or just bash them out. And it is just something that I still need to understand how we got here. I still don't know that. It is awful. It is not something that it's not a world that I would want to live in, where just one little mistake, you're just gone, you're just done, canceled.
Yeah, I think another effect of, say, being cancelled is that so overall, I find cancel culture quite regressive. I think it's very important to keep our spaces safe, because obviously, say, in the context of a poetry open mic night, you know, a lot of the time people come to be vulnerable, people come to be safe when expressing their vulnerability. But within that, cancel culture misunderstands, I think, how to do that, and it does end up being quite regressive. You know, there was some very interesting language in that poem, Witch Hunt, Cycle of Condemnation. I wonder if the person who wrote that poem has had a cancellation put onto them. However, the other aspect of this is that if somebody is cancelled, they're generally not cancelled by everybody. They're cancelled by a particular group. And it's very polarizing, because it means they will, generally speaking, be welcomed into another group. And that group, you know, in a way, it's almost like a form of indoctrination in some senses, because if that push, you know, instead of having, you know, we've got to distinguish between deliberate acts and mistakes and learning points and things like that. But if somebody who could learn from a mistake and move on from it and grow from it, as you know, we all make mistakes, we all have things we have learned from, we all have things we need to learn from. But if instead of having the chance to do that, you're marginalized and then pushed into a group that then wants to make more of that mistake and almost have that mistake as your seed rather than the learning point as your seed, it can be very dangerous and very, very polarizing. I think, yeah, very important to keep our spaces safe and keep our community safe, but cancel culture misunderstands how to do that, I feel.
I totally agree with that as well. And the negative connotations are scary, because yes, they don't promote discourse, like you say. It doesn't promote empathy, so there's no growth. At least, you know, just an overarching statement on my part. But yeah, it's just the censorship. The censorship is I Oh, it's scary. Anyway, I mean, especially in our field where we are out there trying to promote our voices, and now we're afraid to say the wrong thing. That means bad enough that there are political parties that are numerating our lives or reducing it. Now that the same media, the same platform for which we engage, can have a backlash for which silences your voice, anyways. You're still alive. It's a scary thing, and yes, I agree with both of you. I think most poets would, and we just want to promote not just the voice, but the growth of perspective.
Yeah, I'd say I will say. Can I just add quickly to that in my experience, I agree with you. Most poets are very on board with that, and I think there are times where I have made mistakes, and I don't want to go into them specifically, but where I have made mistakes around people who've been very supportive of it and allowed me to grow from that. So I think it's very easy to see this as a super prevalent problem. In reality, I don't think, from my own personal experience, that it's as prevalent as it's maybe sometimes thought of.
Eddie, do you have any final words?
Yeah, I do believe, like I said that, and you guys discussed it, I do believe that it is very important for someone to learn from their mistake, whether it was a mistake or whether it was negligence or they didn't know that they were making a mistake. It is important for people to learn. Like, let's say if it's a group of people that was offended, teach that person, tell that person why what they said or what they did is wrong and how they can fix it, instead of just shunning them without even giving them a reason, or without, because when you shun someone or when you bash someone without giving them the reason, they might continue doing that without realizing it, because they wouldn't know what they did wrong. So yeah, it is important to keep the education and to keep telling people what they did wrong.
Here at the Poetry News, not only do we encourage voices, we encourage ears to be open as well.
So thank you, Eddie, thank you, Squigs, and thank you to everybody who has tuned in to watch the show this week. Well, there's an old TV behind me, so dated reference, that's fine. So we have a lot of shows each week here at the Poetry News. We go out every Monday at 7 p.m. London time. We also have the Poets Reacts and the Poets Lighthouse that go out every week. And we have new shows coming on all the time. We have Bottoms Up, a weekly open mic that jumps around different time zones of the world. So we're always in someone's afternoon. Essentially, come to our YouTube channel. There'll pretty much always be something new. If you have anything that you think should be featured on the show, or if you want to let us know what you think about any of the items we've discussed today, we would love to hear from you. So please do drop us a comment below. We'd love to get a conversation going.
And don't forget to check our Instagram page, our Facebook page, and our YouTube page. Subscribe, hit a like, comment something. And if you have anything you would like to share with us, please make sure that you check our email, or you send us an email on thepoetryglobal@gmail.com. Thank you, everyone, and we will see you next week.